Hey, what's going on, everybody? Real Diverse here. We're coming at you with the best fire decks video. I think it's a good time to make this video for two reasons. One, the fire flare event going on right now, and secondly, I pretty much have used and experienced with all the fire decks, so or at least know enough to know how they're gonna play out. Um, Speaking of that, okay, we do actually have a bonus today. Actually, why not? While we're here, let me open it up. So, or open or pick, I guess I should say. Um, there isn't, and obviously Pokemon Pocket limited number of like cards right now, so it's not like this is too extensive, and I'm not gonna be coming up with like decks that just don't exist. Like we're not gonna be making a Salazzle deck or anything like that, or talking about anything like that. But I just want to talk about some of the best decks right now, best fire decks I should say right now out in and just some ones that you can use. Not always the best, but we're gonna talk about the meta ones, the non-meta ones, things like that. So I'll get into the ones I have personally first, and then we'll just talk into about the other ones that you can make and exist. But first and foremost, let's start with the ones I got. So Charizard, pretty much the first deck I built. Not the first, but this was the first deck I probably had after I deleted some of my earlier decks. So this was my specific one. Just kind of ignore Ninetales here, but we're just gonna talk about the bulk of the or the main purpose Charizard, Moltres. Don't really gotta explain too much, or hopefully I don't have to explain too much. This deck has been heavily emphasized since day one. It's one of these staple decks, one of the super heavy meta decks. Top three, if I had to like list decks, this would be right behind Mewtwo and Pikachu. Because even on a bad day, this deck does really well. But on the worst day, yeah, you just can't get Charizard online, and then that's a bad time. But at any time, even if it's super late, if you get Charizard out, it is the tides completely turn with this deck. So, yeah, definitely a deck to be scared of, especially if it gets online. You are pretty toast if you can't OHKO it quick enough. Another thing is yeah, Moltres. Moltres kind of fits. Moltres is the player here. I'm not gonna talk about Moltres individually, but Moltres is the catalyst or the engine, if you will, of a lot of these fire decks. Due to its Inferno dance ability, which you guys don't know. You can gain potentially up to 3 energy on one of your bench Pokemon by flipping 3 coins. So that is essentially why Moltres is such a strong engine. If Moltres had like a one retreat cost, it would be even better. Sometimes that two can kind of hinder it. But that's why you definitely want to run two EXPs when you do play a Moltres. For that reason, but yeah, it can definitely kind of hinder it a little bit. But Charizard, I think the best fire deck in the game. Hands down, no questions. If you want to play a fire deck, and this is definitely the one to run. All right, and surprisingly too, interesting enough, all the other maybe I know there's a Venusaur and a Blastoise. I think that's not EX. I don't think there's a Charizard that isn't EX. I think every Charizard is EX. Um, And our other one, Blaine, well, we're strictly talking about fire Pokemon, so I'm not gonna call this a Blaine deck, but I'm gonna call this a Ninetales deck. And Ninetales, this one is the one I use personally. Again, that's why on the other one I said no Ninetales. I just personally throw Ninetales in that deck for options like late game if we just can't get our Charizard up. But the more I think about it, maybe that's not the best option because once Ninetales is out there, you're really not putting energy on anything else except for Ninetales. So maybe I should take Ninetales out. But it's a good backup attacker if you just probably can't get your Charizard online. Um, but yeah, Ninetales is really strong. Pairs really well with his support card Blaine, which at a max can do 120 damage with Blaine and full power Ninetales. So I paired this with Rapidash. Rapidash is not a card you can build a staple deck around on its own. So I won't talk too much about Rapidash, but it pairs well, I think, here with Ninetales, especially when you go based on your turn. If you go first, then you probably want to lead with Rapidash so you can start hitting hard. for a hard 40 on your second turn, and then you have a solid 100 HP. So it becomes a decent wall that hits pretty hard, and so you can get your nine tails online. So it works really well. And we also pair with Farfetch as well, just in case we go second. Gives us some time to build up our nine tails, and Farfetch can just kind of come out early and start scrapping. This is my specific nine tails deck. I actually seen this deck actually place top four in the tournament. I built mine just kind of on my own knowledge and just what I want in a deck, and I literally verbatim every card in this deck was in a same exact deck, which is not hard to do because it's limited cards right now in this game. Someone else had the exact same deck as me, and they placed um, top four in a tournament. So yeah, this is probably in the next. And speaking of the next tournament, in the next event, I am definitely running this deck. It is so consistent, very, very consistent deck to run. It doesn't lose often in there. If you don't believe me, go check out my other my Nine Tails video. This deck consistently beats Mewtwo, and it one shots Pikachu, but it one shots Pikachu, which is really great. But it consistently, and Pikachu also one shots Ninetales back. So you have to come into it with Ninetales. But this deck also beats Mewtwo pretty consistently as well. And if you don't believe me on that, I've been Mewtwo fully powered twice, and I think in the same video, go check out my Ninetales deck video. I think I beat fully powered Mewtwo deck twice. So in that same video. It like even fully powered, you get Gardevoir online, doesn't matter. If they get Gardevoir online, doesn't matter. This deck still does really well and blazes through those top decks really well. And it's just so consistent and gets online so quick. This deck really takes out almost just any deck once it's online and in there. If it's especially if it's one of those slow roast decks like a Blastoise or Venusaur, this deck just rips right through that before it can set up. But if they do set up, this deck's done. This deck can't do anything to a fully set up Blastoise deck because no matter what, Blastoise is gonna be 3 shots to kill, I believe, for us, or at least 2 shots with Ninetales, and then he one shots everything on the team. So yeah, pretty tough to beat him if they do get set up. But we this deck is really quick, really consistent. You only need stage ones. They do a lot of damage. They hit hard. That's why we run 2 Giovannis, 2 Blaines. This is all damage. No potions. We're just all damage here. And it works really well. So yeah, Ninetales really great, big advocate. And one thing I do want to add, I hate that this gets called it gets called often a budget deck because it's one of the earlier decks you can actually make because simply look at the you can get two Rapidash, 2 Ponytas, 2 Ninetales pretty quick. You can get that pretty quick, probably even day one of just opening a few packs. But this deck, in my opinion, is nowhere near a budget deck. It is definitely a staple. I think a core fire deck right now, and yeah, you definitely is only second to really Charizard, and they're really close second, in my opinion, with how much I've been able to, uh, how much I've been able to win with this deck. But like I said, this is the next event, tournament, whatever. I'm running this deck for sure as my go to. And I think that's it for the first. I'm just looking at my collection. We're gonna talk about some of the fires in there because there is definitely 3 more I think I want to hit on for sure that are running around right now pretty heavy. So Arcanine EX, big bad, big I think pretty much the staple card right now, this new Flare event. And he's up and rising star right now, really to take and competing with Charizard EX. Now I'm not gonna. I said Ninetales was probably second to Charizard, kind of too early, but this deck I think has a lot of potential. It's Arcanine really competes. It really subs in for Charizard, so it can do the same thing a Charizard deck does, or you're gonna do the same thing you do with a Charizard deck. You're gonna run Moltres and you're gonna run Arcanine, and it shouldn't take you too long to set up with Arcanine. And once you do set up, you're hitting for 120. Now, I'm sorry about that. I think very often this deck gets compared to, or it gets called like a Pikachu killer deck because it does wall Pikachu pretty hard. Now, say this: one of the biggest things about Pikachu is Pikachu runs. They're running pairs. Most decks run in pairs, but Pikachu runs in pairs pretty easily because of how the low energy cost of Pikachu, and Pikachu's a basic Pokemon. So there isn't many, like you're not, it's rare even for Mewtwo. It's rare you're gonna run into a Mewtwo pair, or at least where they're able to get both Mewtwo's online, because most of the time your focus usually just on one of the Mewtwo's. Even with Gardevoir, it's hard to switch into a Mewtwo and get them fully powered up in time. So it's a big, like, you just don't do that with Mewtwo as much. You can switch into your second Mewtwo, but it's still gonna take you time to build up. But Pikachu, you can pretty much run two of those in the same deck and or at the same time, and that happens pretty consistently. And I've run into that quite a bit. And what Arcanine can do is he can, if he comes into the Pikachu, he can knock out one Pikachu, and even the next Pikachu that comes in, he can take an attack from that. So and then one shot that Pikachu. So this deck pretty much walls Pikachu really hard. So yeah, it's really solid. I think it does. It takes Charizard's job. It's a stage one, so you don't have to. It's one easier than stage two to get fully online, and also you need one energy less than Charizard to get online, and then secondly, you don't lose energy with this deck. The downside is you do take damage, and probably won't get more than two attacks off. I'd be surprised if you can get more than two, but by that point, hopefully you've taken out an EX, and by that point, so you should easily be able to sweep through a few teams, I think, with this. But really, if you come into their EX that they've been building up and you can knock it, which I don't really. Again, Mewtwo, you're not gonna knock out a Mewtwo one shot with this deck, and you're not certainly not gonna knock out any of the heavier, like a Charizard or Machamp or any bigger thing like that. So you definitely may need some type of chip damage on this. I'm not 100% sure how everyone runs their Arcanine deck. I would imagine that they have something else that's hitting pretty hard, because once you get Arcanine set up, you do have just free energy, I think. Okay, I had a phone call and I don't know where I was at, but I will say this Arcanine EX really good. He does. I don't really know if his HP is pretty solid. Now I don't have any real experience with this card to say. I'm gonna make a deck real soon just to test him out, compare him to Charizard. On paper, excuse me, he looks really nice. One shots, Starmie as well as Zapdos. He one shot Pikachu, but he one shot Zapdos and Starmie with a Giovanni. So that's nice to see. Um, and you seem to. I usually always happen to have one when I need one. So yeah, I don't really just can't see anything wrong. Just the fact that it seems like unless like you're coming into something, like if he gets hit then you hit, it feels like he's really weak at that point, but it feels like he's gonna have to come into somebody, and probably when I say somebody I mean like an EX, or he's gonna need to come into somebody pretty strong, I think. Or because if someone, but again, not like he's, yeah, even 130 is really nice too though. He's still pretty tanky even after hitting himself once, because he's already not surviving Mewtwo anyway, which I think is his biggest problem. Is really, I feel like Mewtwo just plays well into this, because Mewtwo one shots it. This thing needs a lot to kill Mewtwo, some early damage on it or something like that. To kill the Mewtwo, he can't retreat. I think once Arcanine's out there, it wouldn't be the smartest to retreat. But I guess with an XP, maybe you can. I don't know who you normally would throw on your bench with Arcanine, but I would imagine it'd be somebody else like a Farfetch or something that can also come in and hit pretty hard. Or even I would say, yeah, something like that. I would even say, yeah, honestly, I don't think it would be a bad idea to run Nine Tails with this card. Honestly, not. I feel like, here I go. Here I go again with Nine Tails. But I think Nine Tails does pair a little bit nicely at least because I think Arcanine does is mildly fragile. I feel like, in my opinion, just after hitting himself like twice, he for sure he gets one shotted by everything I know after that. So yeah, that's pretty much I think all I have to say about Arcanine. Really solid card. Um, can't ask for much out of a EX. I think and also well mind you this. Well, Machamp's a stage two, so I actually won't even say that. I would say Machamp does a little bit better, at least in my opinion. But if Machamp wasn't a stage two, then I guess okay. And we already talked about Charizard. So Senti Scorch. This one, excuse me, has also been drawing a lot of attention. I find this one a little interesting because I just don't know what's so pleasing about this one. I know a lot of people seem to kind of look at this. Now, it doesn't seem on paper too far from Arcanine. And one good thing about Arcanine is once it's set up, you can start throwing energy on other stuff. I think that's the beauty of that card. This card and Charizard, once they're out, you kind of have to keep feeding them energy. Nine Tails, keep feeding it. Every pretty much main fire deck feels like you're constantly feeding energy into your active Pokemon. Arcanine's beauty is that it's the one that doesn't. You can power up your bench in some form or fashion. And I think there may be some power and beauty in that, for sure. So, but Scorch 130 has 130 HP. So interesting duality here. And I think when you look at it compared to Arcanine, it's also interesting because it does 10 more than Arcanine, which again gets that Starmie threshold without Giovanni. But also now we're entering this big with Giovanni 140. Now, if you don't know, 140 is pretty much like the EX marker, if you will. Like if we're talking EX Pokemon, oops. Excuse me. Oops. When we're talking EX, like that's like a pretty benchmark. Wigglytuff 140, Moltres 140, and I thought there was Marowak 140. So yeah, a lot of EXs get one shot at 140. Let me see if I'm missing any. That's the normal Pikachu. Articuno. What's Articuno at? Articuno 140. Oh, Articuno's big too. And then that's the normal Charizard. That's the regular Executor, and Venusaur EX is one. God, 190. 190 is kind of insane. Plus, wait, we're with Sabrina too. Wait, do people really not like Venusaur like that? I know there's no real way to feed this card for real, but this thing really won't ever die for real. Wait, let me see. Yeah, yeah, I don't know. That looks kind of sketch to me if I'm being real with the with that. Anyways, 140 really solid benchmark for pretty much most of the EX. So Scorch plus Giovanni, you're guaranteed to knock out pretty much most EXs. Um, so I think that's pretty hefty. And again, this is a non-EX Pokemon, so just doing one for yourself here. One if you lose it. So I think you're looking really good here. Now, any issues? Only at stage one. It does have a high retreat cost, but yeah, 130 is pretty hefty, man. I like, yeah, that's pretty good. And it low key is kind of tanky too. This paired with like Greninja also just it blows through Mewtwo for sure. But I don't. I mean, good luck getting that set up. Good luck getting that set up. Yeah, I gotta see what people run with this. But yeah, I know Moltres. Moltres again, catalyst for everyone. Pretty much all the fire decks, minus maybe Ninetales, but it wouldn't even mind. It wouldn't be that bad on Ninetales either, considering you can spread out the energy, so you can give it to Ninetales and then somebody else. Yeah, yeah. So that's pretty much the main ones. I think they really did Salazzle dirty here. I was a big fan of Salazzle when it first came out, and I think they really did it dirty here. I think they should have definitely they should have definitely I think they could at least did a few things. I think every energy needs I think a stage one that does hits for 70 for two energy. Metal has one, water has one in Gold Duck, electric has one with Electrode. I think Salazzle should have been that one that does 70 for two. And I think they could have picked Salazzle at 100. But even leave it at 90, who cares? But this car should definitely be doing 70 for sure. Now, obviously, it can't do no more than that because they'll be competing with Ninetales without the drawback of Ninetales. But obviously, Ninetales pairs really well again with Blaine, so that's the kind of whole basis of Ninetales is it has a support card behind it specific for it. So yes, Salazzle needs some work. I think they definitely should probably have made it 70 and probably maybe 100 HP because Magmar is dang near like he's not that worse. He's a basic card that does 10 less and has 10 less HP, but pretty much does the same exact thing. On a easier to set up skill in my opinion. But he does D2 to retreat, so and I think there's oh yeah, I think Flareon also I want to mention Flareon because this is Charizard EX. Flareon, who's it? Oh, just the other Moltres, yeah. I don't think anyone's running this Moltres Rice cut. That's dumb. But wait, how much HP are you? Well, anytime you're flipping coins, you're taking a risk. But this card, what's your HP? Uh, Man, not too far from Cinder Scorch there. But yeah, anyways, Flareon, I don't have one, but I thought it was pretty interesting here. Discard fire energy from this Pokemon. You do 110, and it has a 120 HP. Now, if you really think about this, this is kind of better than at least the Arcanine, the normal Arcanine. Um, Stage one is not really that bad in my opinion. If you like Flareon, I really wouldn't have anything negative to say. It's like better, honestly. Excuse me. It does take one extra energy, but this is honestly um kind of competing with Ninetales. You only need Giovanni, and you will be doing the 120 Ninetales does with Blaine. So not too hard. Same setup, just need one more energy. Here and that may be tricky though, that one extra energy, but not too far off from a Blaine Ninetales. Pretty much the same setup. Just Ninetales is more consistent because you can get online just one turn quicker. So that's about it. But yeah, and you got the same issue of having to discard energy, which just seems to be Fire's big trait is you have to discard one of your flame energies. But yeah. Anyways, I think that's all I really had here. Everything else is pretty much like yeah. It's not like I said. Look at like total. This is how many fire cards are in the game. But yeah, Charizard EX does really well. And not because I'll say this some about some of these other EXs. If you have them, not too bad in my opinion. Like if you have Moltres and you don't have normal Charizard, this Charizard is still decent. 150 and you're doing 150. The only issue with this Charizard that pretty much knocks every common meta Pokemon out. Um, only issue with this one is you can't really like do anything in your meantime until you build energy back up. But other than that, you're hitting for 150, and that pretty much one shots a lot of things, and it's pretty tanky too. So I'll argue some of the fire non EX are pretty strong too. But yeah, that's it, man. If you guys did enjoy this, thumbs up, like, subscribe, comment. We'll be back with some more content. Also check out my recent videos. I made a recent video with my Pikachu EX deck, and I think it was playing really nicely. I also got plenty of like Charizard EX if you guys want to see that. Ninetales, like I said, go check that one out. Yeah, so I got plenty of deck videos out, man. Go check them out. Enjoy them. Rid of race, like I said, we're out. Peace.